Hey, everybody. This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. We are a college football media brand, and I'm here with my co-host Ian Gibson. It's very early in the morning. It's 4:30 in the morning for me right now. We just had I got back to work actually, so I'm which is great for me because I've been off for 7 months due to these writers' strike and actors' strike. So uh, it's early, but I'm glad we're able to do this. Ian, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, especially after the Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, such great games. I was fortunate enough to go to the Rose Bowl. I live here in LA, and the a friend of ours has a connection to the Rose Bowl parade, and she was actually in the parade. That's why she wasn't able to go. But shout out to her, Jess Rodriguez, who hooked me and my fiance up with tickets. I got some footage that I'm going to put something together. Maybe just that, or maybe just I might do like a end of the year type thing, wrap up all the shows and all the stuff, all the games that I went to, because I ended up going to I went to the Florida Utah game, I went to the UCLA San Diego State game, I went to the Florida State game, and then this Rose Bowl. So I went to 4 games, so I feel good about that. But no, it's just those games were so great. I mean, even being there live at the Rose Bowl was such a I mean, I had been in the Rose Bowl for a regular season game and it was great, but this was a whole nother level. And um, I had always wanted to go to a Rose Bowl game, since I was probably like 10 years old. I can remember watching it like every, New Year's Day and being like, man, it's such I don't know, there's something about the environment. You got the mountains in the background, you got the like I love how it's like in that game, it goes from like daylight to nighttime, like
Yeah,
you're going through the game, and it's like such a perfect time for the game. And I like, I give a lot of crap to the Rose Bowl because of, it's been very oppressive towards progressing the game. They've limited what the game has been able to do as far as the playoff and everything because they had such a voice in how things were done. And the funny thing is now there's no longer going to be a Pac-12, so like there's
yeah,
not going to be a traditional Rose Bowl game anymore. So it's like we went so long with having it control what happened, and now it's like it's not even going to matter. It's like now it's like they're not even going to be a voice almost to a point. And it's bizarre the way things have gone with college football, but at the same time it makes a lot of sense because we're getting the 12-team playoff and things will like sort themselves out a little bit, which is good. But no, let's get into these games because I know, Ian, you don't have much time. And I'm probably going to go back to bed as well. So let's do this real quick. So let's talk about the first one, Michigan, Alabama. I want to hear your thoughts because I'll have mine, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
for as well as Michigan's coaching, play calling, and especially defense was, and I am not about to take anything away from them. When I was watching the game with George, my cousin, and everybody else who I texted that game, and I would have texted you more, but I knew you had your hands full there.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, at least in recent memory, that was one of the worst offensive performances I have ever seen out of Alabama. And it wasn't even, look, a lot of people are going to throw crap at Jalen Milroe, and to a certain extent, rightfully so. I can kind of tell he wasn't really ready to adjust to a defense that was putting that much pressure. But Tommy Rees and that offensive staff needs to take a serious look in the mirror because it was obvious from the second drive of the game, even that they were going to do everything possible to make Milroe uncomfortable. So what do? They don't add any protection. They instead go 5 wide almost every play, which I was ripping my hair out because I'm thinking, dude, You don't need five wide receivers. You need more guys to block these blitz packages from Michigan. And what happened? Milroe went down and was under pressure and was uncomfortable the whole game. Now, I'm going to give a lot of credit to the defensive staff of Michigan for just confusing the offensive line. They knew that was the Achilles heel of Alabama's offense. Regardless of what you think of Milroe, the weakest part was that offensive line, and they exploited it. They knew the bad snaps. They knew that if you overload one side, you're going to get to the backfield a lot quicker and a lot easier. It was just in my opinion, really well executed game plan for Michigan, and they did just enough to hang on. But man, even then, it got scary. Like you had a lot of turnovers, the muff punt, not only at the beginning of the game, but the one literally maybe within like 2 feet of. There's little maybe about 2 feet between Alabama going to the national championship and Michigan on that last play. But overall, I would say Michigan deserved to win that game on how it played out. Alabama, they came out so flat, and I was very disappointed in how they played. Mostly just offensively because I felt bad for Milroe because I mean, what do you want him to do? I mean, yeah, he could have made better decisions, but I mean, he had like 2 seconds in that pocket,
Yeah.
and before some guy in blue and maize was about to tackle him. So overall, Michigan, like I said, deserved to win that game. They played better, they coached better, and finally got over that hump, and they got one more mountain to climb before really changing the narrative for them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with this game, I still have come out of it not impressed with McCarthy. I just don't see it. I don't see what other like some people say. I know not a ton of people have like a good impression of him. It's more of like the Midwest media, which the Midwest media, I don't know if you realize, but it is got such a stranglehold on the narrative when it comes to a lot of these players like at Michigan and Ohio State because if they're halfway decent, they don't even have to be necessarily good. They just have to be halfway decent. The Midwest media like hypes them up like extremely. And it's like, you see it a lot of times with people that don't necessarily deserve it. And it's very evident with this McCarthy kid. Like I don't know, I watched that whole game. I never really was like, man, this kid is good. He doesn't have a deep ball. Like the biggest passing plays were like big yard after catch from the receivers and Corum on one of them on that fourth down. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, he made like one good play, maybe one or two good plays I saw all game. And the rest, he had like countless incompletions that were like not even close. And I'm just like, man, I don't know what people think about this guy. I don't know why the whole like narrative is like he's going to be drafted in the first round. There is no way in hell this guy gets drafted in the first round. And if anyone does, they are like the dumbest organization to draft this kid in the first round. I mean, he may go third round, and like I think it's fair to say he could go third round, but there's like he does not deserve a first round grade. There's no way. He just does not look good. And
Yeah.
I'll say conversely as well with Milroe. I mean, Milroe has accuracy issues that he needs to work out. I coming into the game, I obviously thought that Bama was going to be able to move the ball on the ground very well, and they did necessarily with McClellan. I thought McClellan had a good game. It's
Yeah.
just they didn't really push the story with the run game, the traditional run game. Most of their yardage came on the ground with Milroe outside of the McClellan stuff. And it was, a lot of busted plays where Milroe would go back to pass and he would just take off because there was nothing there. And credit to Michigan's secondary for shutting down the receivers for the most part. But again, it's Milroe's inaccuracy that led to a lot of that, which, if he was a little bit more accurate, maybe they have a bigger lead at the end of that game, and Michigan, instead of a 7-point lead, it's a 10-point lead, and then Michigan probably
Hmm.
doesn't come back in that case. Um, they had that fumble near in the fourth quarter for Bama on a
Yeah.
Milrow run, which they did end up getting a field goal later in that fourth, but that kind of changed the momentum enough to where Bama was like driving, like they were starting to put that drive together,
Yep.
and I was like, this could be the drive, because if they had scored a touchdown on that drive, that probably would have been game over. And they couldn't score the touchdown. They fumble. Michigan didn't score, but then Bama comes back, scores a field goal, and then Michigan scored that touchdown. But I don't know, just the stuff with Michigan. I thought Corum was good. Um, I didn't see much out of Donovan Edwards. Maybe they just focused on Corum more. And also, I like, I don't know. I just Michigan. I'll get into it when we talk about the championship game, but I'm not impressed with Michigan. I know they won the game, but again, this was probably one of the weaker Bama teams in last several years, and it's largely to do with Milrow not being there yet. I think him coming back next year will help Bama a lot, and like I think he will progress. I think his this is just him like working through this stuff. He's still young. He's only like 20 years old. Like I think this is his second
Yeah.
year in college. Like, I mean, to lead a team to the playoffs, an SEC championship, beating the two-time defending champion is still a great year for Bama. They just couldn't put it together in this game. They got to overtime and Michigan kind of dominated, those two plays, scored really quick. And then Bama struggled a bit to move the ball. Milrow had a run, got him close, and then they had a throw to I believe it was Burton, and then that last play, I've looked at it a bunch. I know a lot of people have diagrammed it and trying to figure out what was going on there. Again, the low snaps, and I know you talked about it. The low snaps were a
Yep.
huge problem all game. God, if they don't have those low snaps, maybe they have a chance in this game better. Like maybe they're up bigger at some points, but just the low snap again at the last play of the game, just so tough to overcome. And I don't know. I've seen where it says that it might have been an RPO because the running back was swinging out to the left, and the two wide receivers looked like they were blocking, but they could be blocking for Milrow to run as well. So it's hard to decipher if that was really an RPO and it was just a low snap, or it was always designed as a run to begin with. It's a tough call if they're on the 3 or 4 yard line to run from there. But I don't know. You have any more thoughts
Yeah.
before we move to the next game?
No, I mean that you pretty much summed it up there.
Okay, next game was Washington, Texas. I missed like most of the first half because I was coming back from the Rose Bowl, so I didn't get to see a lot of it. I did watch the highlights. Um, no, like with this game, you know, the difference between the early game and the later game is quarterback play. And this
Hmm.
was this was a quarterback duel. Like, Penix and Ewers. I know Ewers, like, for whatever reason, doesn't get like the notoriety through the year because he was hurt for a bunch of games. But man, like, I know it got on full display for everybody because he had them pumping. And Penix, I'm telling you what, man, Penix throws the best long ball,
Yeah.
not only in all of college ball, but I'm almost positive he throws the best long ball in all of football because when he comes to the NFL, I know he's going to be good because a lot of what happens in the NFL is predicated on the long ball and moving the ball quickly. And I'm telling you, man, Penix just has the timing, the accuracy, just the like. This kid is unreal, and shout out to him because he's from the Tampa Bay area. And it would have been great if he went to a Florida school, but he had to go his own journey, and he made it happen. And he's now going to be in the NFL, and like more power to him. I'm excited for him, and like this is such a great game. Like honestly, it was back and forth. Washington was a little bit of in control for a little bit into the fourth, and then Texas kind of came back there, and obviously on that last play again, both of these games came down to the very last plays to decide who would win, and that's just you can't ask for more out of both of these games. And the one other thing I'll say before I let you talk your piece on it is Odunze, man, that kid just went
Yeah.
off game, and I'm like, that kid is going to make a ton of money in the NFL because right now the premium in the NFL is wide receivers, and like he's definitely going to be a number one in the NFL because he catches everything. He's super fast. He's got great route running. Like kid's just a stud, and all over the Washington offense is just filthy. I mean, it's the number one passing offense, and it's just sick. But I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and I'll make it quick because I gotta get rolling here. The that one would just straight up like who was like had more experience and who knew how to win those games. But especially on the wide receiver department, Washington, not only was Penix able to put them in the breadbasket, but Washington was able to catch it in those moments. I mean, especially again, Adunze especially was the go-to man. Any deep ball, it was funny because it was like anytime Penix would reel back and throw deep, I had like no like worry that it was going to get picked. It was either going to be in the right place or the receiver was going to catch it. And I think that's what it came down to. Washington had the better wide receiving core compared to Texas. Not that Texas is bad. It's just Washington was able to make the bigger catches and the bigger plays, and they were able to score a lot quicker than Texas.
Yeah,
And once they got that, lead, and that was the thing too. It should have never came down to the last play. It was just that injury that stopped the clock, which is the worst timing.
yeah,
But Washington, we talked about all year how defensively they were definitely maybe not the best compared to the other three teams in this playoff, but they needed that one big stop to clinch the game, and they got it.
yeah.
And for the Huskies, the dream season continues. But yeah, especially with Penix, that was an absolutely masterclass performance. And again, another great game on New Year's.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to say was not only was the Dunze good, and I realized that I didn't take it into account when I was watching the highlights, but uh, Jalen Polk went off for
Mhm.
122 yards as well and a touchdown. So both those receivers were strong, and they have been all year. And yeah, I mean, just a tremendous game and tremendous like finish for both these games, and it was great. So let's get into the championship game, and then this is the last game that we're going to preview for the year, which is kind of sad, but we've had a great year so far. So let's get into it. So um I just, I know I had done like a bigger breakdown for both those games the other day when we were like doing like stats and everything, and I didn't have enough time to do it for this one. But I mean, some of what we talked about before is still relevant here, but I wanted to point out, like I already said, you know, Washington has the number one passing offense in the entire country, and it's probably not even really close. And the counter to that is that Michigan has the number two passing offense. But I will have the caveat of that Michigan has only played one top 50 passing offense, and that was Ohio State. And Ohio State somewhat moved the ball somewhat well, but they got a couple of interceptions. The thing that I'll say with this is Michigan has not played a quarterback like Michael Penix Jr. And what I noticed throughout the highlights of the Washington Texas game, not that I was able to watch the whole game, but even in the highlights, which is pretty much close to the whole package of how the game went, there was so much time for Penix. And so if he
Mhm.
has time against Michigan, I think he's going to pick them apart. And I think they will. I think their offense is just too good. And I don't think Michigan's offense can keep up with that. And I know I probably said the same thing about Bama, but I don't know what it is. I guess I didn't think highly enough of Washington in that Texas game as well, and I thought that Texas was going to score too much, but it really is Washington can outscore like anybody. You know, they outscored Oregon both times this year. They outscored Texas. Those are two really good offenses. I don't think Michigan has anywhere near the offense to compete with an offense like Washington. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and for this one, and for me, it's very simple here. Michigan on how their offense operates. Now we know they have an elite defense, but I don't think that defense is able to stop Washington consistently because I feel like Penix can make more plays happen. So it's really great offense versus great defense. But with that being said, Michigan's offense is very slow, very methodical. They get the job done, but they take a lot of time off the clock. That is not a problem for the Huskies, and we've seen that all year. So even if Michigan wants to play keep away, which might be their best option, it might not work because Washington could go down 90 yards in probably like 5 plays. Uh,
Yeah,
Either Penix's arm or legs can do it, and he'll find somebody open, or he'll do it himself. So, with that being said, I think I agree with you. Michigan's offense, the way it's structured, is not able to keep up against an offense like Washington that is able to score quickly and consistently. Michigan needs to kind of rework themselves to able to score in maybe like under a minute, 2 minutes, like Washington does,
yeah,
because they might not have enough time. And even if Washington makes the mistakes, and that's going to be a big thing, again, because they score so fast, it's really going to negate it if you still like say like you can score in like 20 minutes of possession into the third quarter and you already have like 4 touchdowns. That makes all the difference.
yeah.
So with that, I don't know if we're doing predictions, but I'm going to say, with that being said, I think the Huskies do pull off the upset based on the offense and based on the tempo they have. I think they find a way to get the job done. I'm going to go with a 35-28 win for Washington.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what happens in this game might be dependent on what happens to Dylan Johnson. If Dylan Johnson is hurt coming into
Mm-hmm.
this game, they might struggle on the ground, and that might limit them to just uh, a passing attack only. Because I don't know their backup situation with their running backs, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything injury wise about him. It's probably day to day at this point, and maybe there's a chance he can play. But no, I feel like Washington's going to win this game. I think it may be close for most of the game, and I think in like the fourth quarter, like Washington goes up like 2 scores, and then like Michigan is forced to pass the ball more than they're comfortable with, and I think Washington may make a play, like a big sack fumble or like a pick that kind of like ends the game. So I'm gonna go similar. I'll probably say like 35 to like 21. I'm thinking because I don't think Michigan's going to be able to score enough to keep up with them.
Yeah.
They only scored 20 against Alabama in regulation. They only scored
And then the
like
overtime, yeah.
yeah, and they only scored like I don't know. What did they score against Ohio State? I'm looking at it real quick. Just wanted to verify before last thing, and then we'll end
I
this.
think it was,
They scored 30. So I guess
yeah.
they're capable of scoring against good teams, but against Penn State they only scored 24. Again, like you said, I think if Washington can keep scoring, they're going to force Michigan to throw the ball more, and I think that's where is not what Michigan wants to do. They do not want to throw the ball a ton, and I think if they're behind the numbers, they're going to have to keep pace, and it's not a good place for Michigan to be. But anyways, those are our predictions. That is our last preview because this is the last game. We'll have a wrap up on next week, and then that's it. That's the end of the year. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. You can reach us at haterradio.com for all of our articles. For our socials, it is hater_radio for Twitter, X, Threads, Instagram, TikTok. For YouTube, it is at Hater Radio. For Facebook, it is Hater Radio CFB. For Ian, what are your socials?
Yeah, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, all at GGatorG.
That's where you can find us. Also, haterradio1@gmail.com if you want to email us the old school way. That's the show. I'm Chris McLean. This is Ian Gibson. Enjoy this game because it's going to be 7 months of nothing. So this is it. This is the last we can enjoy it. I know we'll have pro football for another month, but this is it for college football. So enjoy this. All right. Take care, everybody.